guys, welcome to the board. That's right, I got the whole board set up for us. So we're gonna go through each Mission Impossible one by one, and we're gonna give you a breakdown. I got the IMF team right here. Got the Ethan Hunt always in the middle. Got the IMF directors, team leaders, and mentors for all the different movies. Got your directors, got your villains, and of course there's some wild cards, and I got this cool little pointer. So each one of these movies is 2 hours long. So I know that's a lot, and it's got a spy movie, and it's convoluted with things that throw you off, but we're going to try to give you the cleanest and most easiest way to explain the movies and have a little fun along the way. So let's kick it right off into Mission Impossible. Alright guys, welcome to Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. So after 3, they stopped giving it numbers and they just started to give it a name. I like the way they worked. So this came out in 2011 and was directed by Mr. Brad Bird, famous for Incredibles and Incredibles 2, and not so Tomorrowland. What? We'll give him a pass. No big deal. Alright, so let's kick into this sucker. Alright, so we catch up with Mission Impossible, and we're not following Ethan, we're following Hathaway. So we follow Hathaway, and he's on a mission. He's getting something off. He gets away. Then he gets into an alley, and he meets our villain number 1 from this one, and Miss Seydoux Monroe, and she ends up killing Hathaway. So Hathaway is done 2 minutes of the movie. Man. Then we kick to a Russian jail. And what do we find out? Ethan, is in a Russian jail. And guess who's there? Benji and this new lady, Jane, are trying to break him out. So all of a sudden, they figure out a way to break Ethan out of this Russian jail for some reason. He's in. We have no idea why. They break him out. He gets up. He meets up with Benji, who's now a field agent, and Miss Jane. And they come to start telling Ethan about why they're there to save him, or why they're there to get him. They basically tell him about their mission that happened with Hathaway, that Jane was in charge of, and that they were going after Miss Monroe, who came after, looking for this list, but it's got the Russian nuclear codes. And basically, Miss Monroe has gotten away with the nuclear codes, and she wants to sell them to Hendricks and his other right-hand man, Wenstrom, so that she can get some diamonds out of it. Whew, man. So this starts off and kicks off the whole Ghost Protocol and how it all starts. So, Ethan gets his team, gets all this information, and goes to a IMF location to get his mission report. And this time, we're at a payphone. So he goes up to a payphone and starts to hear all the information and see the information about this new mission. Basically, they want him to infiltrate the Kremlin so they can get information about Cobalt so they can use it against Hendricks and Wistrom. And he's going to use his team that they've assembled in Benji and Jane to break in. Cool. So he walks away from the phone, and for the first time, the actual message doesn't just explode. He has to walk back, and then the message explodes, kind of like some old school stuff. So they have to go to a mission to the Kremlin. So then you get to the mission to the Kremlin, and Benji's excited because he thinks he gets to finally use a mask. Nope, sorry Benji, you don't get to use a mask this time. You just get to go as yourself and be in disguise as a Russian soldier. So they get into so you got Ethan and Benji breaking into the Kremlin, and they're trying to get this information on Cobalt. They use his cool video screen to break in, but at the same time, you got Hendricks over there, and he's double playing them and is on their radio signal and says, "Team leader, did you get the information? Team leader, is everything good to go? Team leader, get out." So with that, Ethan freaks out and tells his team to abort. They all abort. Ethan runs out of the Kremlin, and once he's running out of the Kremlin, boom! An explosion happens in the Kremlin. He starts to break out, and he gets knocked out cold. We catch back up with Ethan, and he's passed out in a Russian hospital. And he's freaking out, doesn't know what to do. He figures out a way to get out of there. Russian police are pretty pissed off because he sneaks off, but it's all right. It's Ethan. He gets away. So he breaks away. He gets a phone, calls in, gets the whole IMF thing. He actually gets picked up by Tom Wilkinson, the IMF secretary. The first time we've ever met this IMF secretary, he actually gets picked up with him. And in the car with them is Brandt. And we find out Jeremy Renner joins the crew, that Brandt's with them. So they start telling him about these things that happened with the Kremlin and how everything has gone bad, and that the president has initiated Ghost Protocol. And what now? Ghost Protocol means all of IMF is disavowed. So that means the entire IMF team is no longer existent. At the same time he's telling this, someone shoots and kills the freaking secretary of IMF. And now Tom Wilkinson is dead. The freaking truck and they were riding in crashes. Brandt and Ethan have to break free. They end up getting away. they find this kind of like ghost train-esque IMF stowaway area. That's this cargo train that'll get them out of Russia. They get aboard, and who's on there? Benji and Jane already waiting for them. So they find a way to get onto this, basically this train, and now Ethan telling the rest of them that Ghost Protocol has kicked in. There is no more IMF. They're on their own, just like Ethan likes it. You know, every season, every one, he has to figure out a way to be on his own. Well, this time it's official. Ghost Protocol has killed the entire IMF. So they figure out a way that they got to get to Dubai so they can intercept this meet between Miss Monroe and Hendrix, so she can get diamonds for her nuclear codes and he can get his nuclear codes so he can start a nuclear war. Well, Ethan uses one of his connections that he has inside of the Russian jail that he does to get him some information. They get down to Dubai and they start using their magic. And of course, this is the big things that Ethan has to do. So this time, Ethan has to freaking climb. He's got to have to climb up a building with nothing to help him out, just these cool little gloves, because they got to get into the server room to get control of the cameras, and they don't have IMF to help him. So he's got to scale a building. He scales a building, and then he has to run down the building and get inside. They do the whole switcheroo and trick these people into it, but she gets way of it because she sees an eye inside of Brand that used to be inside of Hanoi that she realizes IMF. She starts freaking out. And she gets away. Hendrix goes on the run, and Ethan has to go chasing him. And then we get our cool chase in the desert where Ethan is in full sprint mode, and he's chasing through the desert, and he's got to get there because he's got to try to get Hendrix because he's got the nuclear launch codes for Russia, and he's trying to stop him. Of course, Hendrix gets away, Ethan gets taken down, and they have to come back and regroup. So Ethan connects with his old Russian guy from prison, who actually has a cool little connection because the guy that was protecting Max in the first one, I guess, is protecting him. At the same time that Ethan is off trying to get some information about where Hendrix is going to be in this whole cobalt and stop and everything, Brant is telling Jane and Benji what the heck he knows. And what does he know? Well, he knows that Ethan was under protection by Brant along with Julia. That's why you don't see Julia here. Julia and Ethan were under protection by Brant. They were watching him but didn't know. They were off in, I think it was Croatia, and they were on a mission, and some Serbians found out some Serbians are coming after him. He goes for a run. Two guys are protecting Julia. He comes back. Julia's gone. He says they found her body a week later or so, all in different pieces. So we find out that Ethan's wife, Julia, is dead, and Brand was there supposed to protect him. So things are really crazy. Well, Ethan gets some great information from his Russian friend and finds out that he needs to go to Mumbai because that's where this prince bought this Russian satellite that Hendrix is going to use so he can launch some nuclear codes. Of course, they get down there, and this to me is like one of the craziest scenes with the whole prince guy in Mumbai. I didn't like this whole sequence that happened, but basically a chase ensues. They start ripping out servers to try to stop this bomb. He ends up launching a nuclear missile at, I think it's Washington, New York, and then Benji and the whole IMF team have to stop him. Tom gets into this great fight with Hendrix over the whole codes, and they're in one of those carports that goes up and down and moves cars around. They end up throwing things all around. He ends up falling off the carport, and then Tom has to use a car and drive it off the cliff 30 feet into the ground because he's got to stop this bomb from going off so it doesn't blow up an American city. He jumps down, and the greatest line that you've ever heard in a Mission Impossible, he goes, "Mission accomplished!" And hits the thing. Of course, it doesn't go off, but eventually they get the server reconnected. It goes off, they stop everything, and things go on. Now you may be asking yourself, where the heck is Luther? That's right. After all this happens, we meet back up in Seattle, and Luther's there, and Luther's making fun of Ethan because he's telling him that you actually said mission accomplished. Yeah, I said mission accomplished. And then Ethan's telling a story, and Brad's telling he's sorry, but what you come to find out is Julia's still alive. She's alive and well in Seattle and is a nurse. So everything is good. And Tom's back, Ghost Protocol is over, and IMF has been released.
Mission accomplished!